Most people grow up believing the same thing. If you work hard enough, stay disciplined, and put in the hours, success will eventually find you. So they do exactly that. They wake up earlier, stay at work a little longer, say yes to extra shifts, push through exhaustion, and for years, they keep telling themselves that all this effort will pay off someday. Honestly, it sounds like common sense. The problem is that reality doesn't always work that way. There are millions of people who spend decades working incredibly hard and still struggle financially. At the same time, there are people who seem to build wealth much faster without constantly working themselves to exhaustion. So what's going on? What do they know that everyone else doesn't? The answer has surprisingly little to do with how hard you work, and almost everything to do with how you think about money. A story I heard years ago explains this perfectly. A man named Daniel started his first full-time job at 19. He wasn't lazy. Far from it. Every morning he was out of bed before sunrise. He rarely called in sick. Whenever overtime was available, he took it. His co-workers respected him because they knew he could be counted on. His manager trusted him, and Daniel genuinely believed he was doing everything right. For a while, it felt like he was making progress. Every raise felt like proof that his hard work was paying off. Every bonus felt like another step toward financial security. But something strange kept happening. No matter how much more he earned, his money never seemed to stay around very long. The apartment got a little bigger. The car got a little nicer. A few subscriptions here. A few monthly payments there. Nothing looked outrageous by itself. Yet somehow, the money kept disappearing. At first, Daniel assumed the problem was simple. He wasn't earning enough. So he worked harder. Then even harder. Years passed. One day, after nearly 15 years of doing everything he thought he was supposed to do, he opened his bank account and felt a knot in his stomach. He had spent thousands upon thousands of hours working, but financially, he wasn't nearly as far ahead as he expected to be. Around that time, he started paying attention to an old friend named Marcus. What's interesting is that Marcus had started from almost the same position. Their salaries had been similar, their opportunities had been similar, but their lives looked completely different. Marcus wasn't constantly stressed about money. He wasn't picking up every extra shift. He wasn't working every weekend. Yet somehow he had savings, investments, and a level of freedom Daniel couldn't understand. It didn't make sense. How could two people begin in almost the exact same place, work just as hard, and end up with completely different results? The answer wasn't income. It was behavior. Most people assume money problems are math problems. But more often than not, they're psychology problems. Daniel spent years focusing on earning money. Marcus spent years focusing on owning things that produced money. That small difference changed everything. Every month, Daniel traded his time for a paycheck. And then most of that paycheck went right back out the door. As his income increased, his lifestyle quietly increased with it. Without realizing it, he had stepped onto a treadmill. The faster he ran, the faster the treadmill moved. It felt like progress. But he never actually got anywhere. Every raise created new expenses. Every financial win came with new obligations. And the freedom he wanted always seemed to stay just out of reach. Marcus played a completely different game. Whenever his income increased, he resisted the urge to immediately upgrade his lifestyle. Instead, he bought assets. Nothing flashy, nothing exciting enough to show off on social media. Just small investments made consistently over time. Month after month, year after year. Slowly, those assets began generating value on their own. While Daniel kept selling his time, Marcus was quietly buying back his future. And this is the part that most people never hear. Hard work matters. It's important. But hard work alone doesn't create wealth. If effort automatically created wealth, some of the hardest working people on earth would also be the richest. We all know that's not how the world works. Because wealth isn't created only through work. It's created through ownership. Owning businesses. Owning investments. Owning assets that continue producing value long after you've stopped working for the day. That's why two people can put in the same amount of effort and still end up with completely different outcomes. One spends every dollar they earn. The other turns part of that money into something that keeps earning more money. And here's where things become difficult. Society rewards appearances. People notice the new car, the bigger house, the designer clothes. Those things are easy to see. Ownership is different. Ownership is often invisible. Nobody sees an investment account quietly growing in the background. Nobody applauds the person who chooses patience over instant gratification. But years later, those invisible decisions become impossible to ignore. Eventually, Daniel understood this. And once he did, he stopped asking the question most people ask. He stopped asking, how can I make more money? Instead, he started asking, how can my money work harder than I do? That single shift in thinking changed everything. Because no matter how motivated you are, there will always be limits. A limit to your time. A limit to your energy. A limit to the number of hours in a day, but assets don't have those limits. An investment doesn't need sleep. A business system doesn't take weekends off. Ownership can keep producing long after effort stops. And that's the lesson many people discover far later than they wish they had. The biggest financial mistake isn't laziness. It's spending your entire life increasing effort while completely ignoring ownership. Work hard. Absolutely. Give your best effort. But don't stop there. Because the goal was never to work forever. The goal was to build a life where you eventually have a choice. And the people who understand that difference are usually the ones who escape the cycle that keeps everyone else running in circles.